Well, hello. In this video, we're going to talk about differentiation, specifically the rules called the power rule, the constant rule, and the sum rule. First of all, the constant rule, and that says if I'm going to take the derivative with respect to some variable of a constant, like for example the number 5, that's always going to be equal to 0. So the constant rule is a derivative of a constant is always equal to 0. The sum rule says that if I have a function f of x and another function g of x, and they are both differentiable, then the derivative of the sum of the functions is equal to the derivative of the first function plus the derivative of the second function. And then the power rule, and this one you will use very often, and that is if you have a variable that's taken to some power, let's say x to the n, the derivative of that x to the n is going to be equal to n times x to the n minus 1. So for example, if I wanted the derivative of x squared, I would move the 2 out front, and then the x now comes x to the 1, which is just 2x. Okay, so let's differentiate these problems here. Number 1, dy dx, since x, or since since y is a constant, then dy dx is going to be equal to 0. Number 2, this is 5 times x to the 18th. So the derivative, and I'll write it as f prime of x, is equal to 5 times, and now I put this number in front, x to the 17th, or 90 x to the 17th. dy dx for this function is going to be 4 times 5 x to the 4th. And what do we do with this plus x? Well, if we treat it like x to the 1, then that would be 1 x to the 0. And remember, 0, x to the 0, or anything to the 0 power is just equal to 1. So this becomes 20 x to the 4th plus 1. And that we've applied the sum rule here. F prime of x. And it's going to be the derivative. Let's go ahead and split this up. Derivative of 4x to the 4th. And it's minus the derivative of 5x. And then minus the derivative of the constant 3. This derivative becomes 4 times 4 x to the 3rd, so 16 x to the 3rd. And then the derivative of 5x is just 5. And then the derivative of the constant is 0. So our answer is just 16x to the 3rd minus 5. And what if we have a rational exponent? Well, the rule is still going to be the same. So dy dx is going to be equal to 3 times, and we bring the power out front and multiply it by that power. And then we lower the exponent by 1. So 5/4 minus 1 would give us 1/4. So this becomes x to the 1/4. So we end up with 15 over 4 x to the 1/4. And the last problem here, we're going to do 5/4 times, and that's going to be 2/3 x to the 2/3 minus 1, which makes that a negative exponent. So we're going to have, see, that cancels with that. We've got 5 over 6 x to the negative 1/3. All right, and so these are just a few examples of using the power rule, the sum rule, and the constant rule. You will use these quite a bit in more complicated differentiation problems, but this is a good way to get familiar. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Oh, by the way, if you want to know anything about my tutoring services, you can visit my website and get a free download. Right now, the download is 5 strategies for overcoming test anxiety, but those downloads do change from time to time, so come back and visit again. Thank you again, and we'll see you in the next video.